Hello and welcome to Into the Light. I'm your host, Edina Mauvana. Today we have Lisa, also known as Twila or Little Star, across the veil. She's a multi-dimensional guide devoted to helping others ascend from 3D to 5D. As a dawn breaker and the first anointed, she creates a sacred space where divine beings, hybrids, healers, all kinds of mystics can awaken and align with unconditional love and embody their spiritual purpose. And yeah, Lisa, I found you on TikTok originally, so I'm so excited to talk to you a little bit more today and just hear more about your story and the work that you're doing, because I'm always like listening in and so fascinated with everything you're talking about. So excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be here. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. So I just wanted to, first of all, I know I said a lot of things in that bio about us being divine beings and the healers and the mystics and people that you work with to help awaken. I know you talk a lot about ascension. So tell me about the ascension process that we're in, why it's so important, because I know a lot of things have been timing right now where people are learning about this sort of spiritual awakening. And I come from a Muslim background, so a lot of it is new. And just wanted to hear about where you are, where we are with the ascension and moving from 3D to 5D. And what is that when people ask you?
Yeah, sometimes it's a little confusing for people because it does actually deal with a lot of quantum physics and metaphysics and sort of dimension extension. And that sometimes confuses people because they're like, wait a minute, how are you in 5D and still talking to me in 3D? So I'll get to that in a moment. But I don't think anyone in the world right now can actually say by walking outside or just noticing the news or things that are happening because they're starting to feel the energy. I think just anyone alive is feeling this shift
Yeah,
happening.
like ascension symptoms, people talking about our ascension
Yes.
symptoms, getting really tired or
Yes.
throwing up and
Oh,
things purging. Yeah.
it's all over the world. So what's happening is, and also guys, I would reference Dolores Canaan. She's another oracle who has passed away. Please do check her out because she does have a whole video montage of this, which she predicted in advance, and none of her predictions have ever come wrong. So, or ever been, she's always been spot on. But what's actually happening is that we are not just growing in the consciousness of one another, which we do need to do that. That's very important, but we are going through a dimensional shift which has never ever occurred before, ever. And so what's happening is we're switching from 3D to 5D. This is a very important change because I don't want to equate everything back to religion, even though if you are religious, that's perfectly fine. If you're not, that's perfectly fine as well. But what's happening is we are actually ascending our soul. So our soul is actually ascending to the fifth dimension, which is why we are having ascension symptoms. And this is something that is being seen all over the world. Our doctors are saying people are coming in with the same duplicate sicknesses and things that are happening, and they're not quite sure what was going on. Also, if you know anything about the Schumann Resonance meter that NASA uses and all the science orgs use, when the actual ascension happened for all of us, the first ascension, I should say, it's still continuing. It's not like it's stopped yet, but a major ascension happened on February 25th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. But I do want to remind people that time is a construct here a lot longer over there because our bodies really can't go that fast or it wouldn't work. And I can explain why. I think that people were like myself. I'm an angel human high, and people had what I call divine spark open. That means they're living authentically as themselves. They've been truly pushing back against ideologies of the world and living a life with almost like a Christ consciousness. I'm not Christian, but I absolutely love Jesus Christ. So December-ish. And after December, and one of the first symptoms I started noticing was just sort of this general malaise in my body, just not really feeling good. And then I started to notice that I had tinnitus. Now, I don't ever have tinnitus. That never ever happens.
Ringing
but
in the
historically,
ears,
tinnitus
right?
is the ringing in the ears. Yeah. And I don't have that. So it was very stunning. And I thought, what is going on? And I have my whole life, I've been since I was 21, especially. I've been dealing with Archangel Gabriel. So nothing was said by Gabriel, which we can get in that later. And my children were going through this. Their father was going through this. And I just couldn't figure it out. And then I started getting these aches and pains in my body, but in very specific spots. My neck and shoulders were just horrifically hurting. My lower back, my hands. And my hands was that was the disturbing one. Because I'm like, I don't have arthritis. What is going on? And then just this overwhelming exhaustion, almost narcolepsy was happening. And so I started discussing this with my other friends who are in the clairvoyant or divine field. And they're saying, Lisa, we're going through the same thing. I don't know what's going on. And none of us knew. None of us really knew exactly. I had not read Dolores's or seen her video at this point. I really hadn't thought much of it, but we all had that instinctual feeling, that intuitional feeling that something was coming. We felt it. It felt very big, but not bad. There was other symptoms too. It's kind of like you're not fitting in your body. Something didn't feel right. So as we went forward in January and started heading into February, my scientific friends were telling me, I have this Schumann Resonance meter.
Yeah, so the Schumann Resonance, just
Yep.
because we want to, I know it's from the solar flares from the sun, and they also are monitoring like the heartbeat of the earth, right?
Yeah, it's called the heartbeat of the earth. It's just the vibration of the earth. It's like a seismic meter. It looks like a seismic meter. It just has a line and then some like almost a heartbeat monitor.
Yeah. And sometimes the solar flares are really massive, like M5,
absolutely.
like they're the classifications, right?
Yes. And in January, it started to do wacky stuff. And all these scientists were, what's going on here? And nobody could really figure it out. As we progressed further towards February, it was going crazy. The further we went, and then we're getting more sick, and we're getting sicker and sicker. And as we come, I'm trying to like not take forever talking about this, but as we get further toward the week of February 25th, I'm at this point almost in bed all day. My children are in bed all day. My friends that are like me are in bed all day. We're like, what is going on? Because I don't take naps and I'm sleeping the whole day and all night. And then I get a call from one of my scientific friends who says, something just happened on my meter. It went black. And I'm like, what do you mean it went black? And they're like, it went completely black. Now, afterward, we noticed the time that it happened. And it was the one time in the whole world where we're all in the same 24-hour period. There's only a short time that can happen because of where the international timelines are.
Yeah.
And it didn't last long. And then when it kicked back on, it did something that the Schumann meter should never, ever do. It created, I'm just going to put a visual, kind of a box this big. You're welcome to look it up. That created four towers of what looked, I guess if you're a Gen Xer, it looked like a static TV, if you remember what that looked like.
Yeah.
And it was
like
all very colorful. Yeah, super colorful. And they were just stopped in their tracks because they're like, we don't know what this is. What is this? This, and I just got an angel confirm it, this was an ascension to 5D. And I went on the first day, so I went on the 25th, and then everyone else carried over the 26th.
Of February.
February. Yeah, this past February.
Yeah.
2025. We did have a very small ascension in November of 2024, but that took over, I know this because I know some of these people, that took over prophets, because prophets are still on the earth. It took over religious leaders, spiritual leaders, different things like that, but it was very small. And I think some of us just probably thought we had a little cold or something. It wasn't too aggressive because it was energetically aimed at certain specific people. This was the whole globe. This was a massive, we're taking the people over and here we go. So when we got there, all I can say is, yeah, we ascended. I don't know how else to explain it, but I'm living 100% in 5D with my entire family. With the very first ascension took over 3.6 billion people, give or take. And that's not good, actually, because there's 8.1 billion people in the world. If you want to talk about the journey that went on after, that's fine.
Yeah, but, and I know you talk about this a lot when you're talking about how people are asking, okay, how do I know if I got there, or am I in 5D, am I in 3D? People are talking about this in the spiritual community and whatnot. What is this? I know we have to do an awakening of I think you talk about divine spark, or entering into this higher level of consciousness. So tell me about that, because I know it's something you're really passionate about, getting people to awaken in this way and have their divine spark. So how does that really bring us into the alignment that we need in order to get to the 5D ascension?
Yeah. So when I found out the numbers were that low, I did, with divine discussion, because of what I am, realized that the reason why people weren't coming over is that we have an alarming amount of people that are living in this world that were on autopilot. Now, that can happen in a lot of ways. There's lots of variables in that. It can be trauma. It can be all kinds of things. Trauma is actually one of the most, I would say trauma holds people back from being their true self more than any other situation that could happen in your life. And everyone goes through trauma. But the real thing was really that we were on autopilot. And that means that people were walking around on this earth, and I'm primarily dealing in the United States. There's plenty of people around the world doing what I'm doing right now as a task. But if you're living a life where every single day you are just repeating a pattern, like maybe you get up, you go to work, you might work however many hours, you come home, you feed the kids, you help them with their homework, you go to bed, you scroll some like whatever, social media, and then you wake up the next day and you repeat that for 5 days. You might go out once a month with your friends, and you're going to do that till what, 67? What are you waiting for? This sort of like narrow-minded, we're not alive, we're not conscious, we're just kind of functioning robots. And if that's happening,
yeah, like breaking out of the matrix, right?
Yes, it needs, and I know you discuss that a lot too, is this awakening consciousness that needs needs to happen, because we are going into the era of enlightenment, or the era of Aquarius. It's also, there's two different names for it depending on which way you want to approach it. But if you are a religious or spiritual person, you will know that
Age
era
of Aquarius, and it's like with the astrological alignment.
Some people do that. I go more on the divinity side, so mine is the more of the age of enlightenment, which is technically, I do believe the Canaans have some very good information and very accurate information in them. That is the age of Jesus Christ. That is the age of knowledge. That is the age where your mind expands. It's a peaceful time. It will be 1,000 years approximately, but remember, time is a construct here of where we get to learn and access things that never before could we ever access, and be privy to so much knowledge. And there is a reason for that. So when these people were back on, not over, and only 3.6 billion came over, there was a lot of concern what's going on, but they already knew this was going to happen. And so what it is, just getting people to understand, you absolutely must get off autopilot. I see people on autopilot. I've seen this for almost my whole life. People that just function like robots. They're not really even quite there. And this could happen also because you might have been, we all have been conditioned, since we were children, you must follow the rules. You're going to sit in a classroom with 30 kids. You're all going to learn the same way. All the ideologies.
It's like the military style conditioning, right?
It is.
And then very structured, rigid, masculine side.
And how dare you step out of it? How dare you be different? How dare you be bold and be your actual self?
That's what I was going to say, because your community and what you're trying to do is called the Misfits Gone Wild, right?
Yeah.
So, you talk a lot about how, for people who are outside of the box, or we've always been the black sheep of our families, or even in those, you talked about like the early education programs for people who are conditioned. So tell me a little bit about how you're really pulling together people who have not felt it in their own place until now, until all this ascension is happening and this global awakening is really going on.
Okay, so my room was very energetically and manifestive. It was built with manifestation, not just with myself, but I work with Archangel Gabriel a lot. We did this, and it brings in people that were supposed to be there, which is really awesome, and it really is working that way. There's people seeking that higher consciousness. I think every human has that feeling of something doesn't feel right. Things are going on right now in the world and weird and strange, but the really essential thing is you just absolutely must get off autopilot, which is actually not a very hard thing to do. It's a biological function, because I use a lot of references to the earth sentience, which is what our body is actually belonging to. And then I also talk about then our consciousness and our spiritual side. And I think you have to get off of, now I can tell people how to do that, but I'm not going to go into that. But then you have to open that divine spark. Now, what is a divine spark? There's a lot of people that believe God lives inside of me. And you're absolutely correct on that one. You're correct. I like to make
Or like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within
within us. Yes.
So we're in a big movement in that way, like not seeking things outside of ourselves or intermediaries between us and God, but the direct contact, right?
Absolutely. And it's been there the whole time. And I try to tell people, just envision it as like a glowing sack. You just kind of open it up and you can peek inside. And what's actually in there is your true, authentic self. And what I mean by that is the formula, if you will, that God, the creator, whatever you want to call it. I also come from a Muslim background, so there's 99 names. We could go, whatever you would like to say, Allah, is inside this area. And it's what makes you different. It does. We're all different. We're all completely diverse, different. We all have special skills, special everything. But if you're only aligning to what the society says to be, you're not accessing those things. And therefore, that's why we don't see a lot of diversity, or we see a pushback against the people that do embrace their diversity. And so if you can open that, not only does that live inside there, but something very important, which is your intuition. You're born with your instincts. We know this scientifically. Babies have it. We see it. Babies can crawl up to their mom just to get their milk if you put them right here. And instincts are one of the most powerful, actually, I'd say the most powerful weapon in the universe, because it's never wrong. But combining that with your intuition, you're a powerhouse. You've now become because humans are extraordinary. We are absolutely extraordinarily built by the creator. And I feel like a lot of people just feel like they're floating about, or they're just disassociated from themselves due to a lot of variables. And they haven't really reached in and grabbed those things that were specifically given to them, which makes everyone, because once you've done that, and I think you talk about this a lot on your podcast, once you've done that and you've really started to embrace who you are, your vibration vibration level raises, which therein raises the entire world, right?
Yeah,
It's the
frequency is
collective.
raising.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. The more you start raising your vibration level, everything's vibration, by the way, guys. Science, you got to go into science. This is going to spark off almost like a domino effect. It really does, because energy draws energy. And so the more you educate, the more you help people open that up, we're lifting the whole world's consciousness. And that
Yeah.
is so remarkable. But like I said, it was just a case of us finding out how many people truly were on autopilot, truly had not accessed that divine spark. Now, I will say one thing though: if you are an artist, a musician, singer, songwriter, you work anywhere in the arts, if you have been the black sheep, if you are the person that is possibly you were born divine, or you were born with clairvoyancy or some sort of connection to the other side, your spark's open. You don't have to worry about it. I have yet to meet anyone that has not gone through ascension sickness that has not done those paths already, which is really cool. And some people are born with it open. Mine was already open just because of who I am, and two out of my 6 children were born with theirs open. So yeah, it's really about what you talk about. It's raising that almost Christ consciousness.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like you have a background. I know you mentioned, because you have like a Pakistani ex-husband, and you
Yes.
have knowledge about a lot of different religions
Yes.
from the Christian side. I know we're talking about what the role of Jesus and all of that, Christ consciousness, and then also what the sacred texts like Islamic and the Quran says about these things. So everything is aligning up right now in a timely way, right? Where
Yes.
the synchronicities and things coming to fruition, right? So a lot of that is really
Absolutely.
happening right now.
Yeah, I think I actually watched something this morning that I think with the Pope just passing away recently,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of things, guys, especially whether you're Jewish, maybe you might be Christian, maybe you might be a Muslim, you might be Hindu, it doesn't really matter. You might just be the human that's out there floating around not knowing what you believe in, and that's okay too. Nothing wrong with that. You'll figure it out. There's things happening, guys. You can't deny that. We've got a lot of natural disasters happening. The earth is rumbling. I get a lot of downloads, I'm sure you do too, a lot of visions, a lot of things that are telling me, okay, this earth is disintegrating. So this 3D to 5D thing, what's actually happened is the earth copied itself. It's right next to itself. And so there's a 3D version here, there's a 5D version here, and there's a divine intervention still on both sides, because it has to be, as they're bringing people over. And the downloads that I've got, which actually match Dolores's, which I never watched her before I got these downloads. So it was very interesting to see that amongst other oracles as well. I'm not an oracle, but somehow I'm getting this information, I think, because you and I both we're both spiritual guides and try to help people get to their higher self and in any way they can. It really is replacing itself. And I hate to tell people this, if you don't raise that consciousness and raise that vibration level and truly come within your authenticity, with my own interactions with the other side of the veil, one of the things and one of the greatest messages I've ever heard back from them is that one of the things they applaud the most, all of them, I'm talking the whole spiritual team you have, is authenticity. Because that means that you're living with
the highest vibe, right?
The highest. You're living as exactly the Creator made you. This is who you are. The Creator purposely made you this way. This is your identity. This is your beautiful diversity. This is and also, let's not forget the fact that as you raise your vibration, your love goes up, integrity goes up, compassion, empathy, dignity, all of these wonderful moral codes where you don't have to be a specific religion or anything to know that that's just a good human to have those things lifted up. So that's why it's so essential for everyone to, if you don't want to think about this 3D to 5D thing, if you don't want to think about any religion, at least think about, how can I be a better human?
And just raise the vibrational frequency of your heart. That's the only thing that truly matters, is that frequency of your heart. And that's why so much focus on being in more elevated frequencies like joy, happiness, versus the lower density frequencies bringing us down. And, so I wanted to ask, because I know that you have had to overcome a lot of that trauma that we talked about. And so much of that is what's holding down the collective, is people who are steeped in their own trauma background or whatever, and they're not really able to have the break free, the spark, divine spark awakening. So tell me a little bit, because I know you went through a lot yourself, and about your story with near-death experience and having to really have so many traumatic experiences happen, and that you've had to heal through so much of that in this journey.
Yeah, that actually comes probably more from the fact that I'm a healer. I'm a light worker, which a lot of people are. You don't have to be divine to be that. And if you live a life of a healer, it almost comes without saying that you're going to probably go through more tragic events than a normal human lifetime would probably go through, because you need to know pain and know every kind of style of pain before you can truly actually help somebody who's locked into that pain. Now, I'm a light walker. I yin to yang with my fellow shadow walkers. We are both on the good. I wouldn't say good. I don't like using good and evil, by the way. I like using light and dark because we don't want to go there. We want to keep that duality as even our creator intended. That's very important for the balance of humans and the balance of the universe. But I work with shadow walkers and myself, and I can tell you right now, if you're questioning what your abilities are and you know how to heal people and you know how to do extraordinary things with like maybe taking darkness out of people's lives, you probably had a tragic life. When I say tragic, we're talking out the gate. We're talking like little tiny kid all the way up to where
abandoned and left, or people who have
you're dead. And also, I'm a chosen one, which people do know that from birth. Your parents would never not know that. That's key. You must know that. And a lot of us get abused or out of envy and jealousy, especially if you're born into a religious family, because they will say like, why her? I've got tattoos. I live a pretty crazy lifestyle. Why would she be first anointed? Once the people come into my room and hang out with me and hear my story, they go, there's no way she's not first anointed.
Yeah, tell me about that. The first anointed, what does that mean, and how is it that you have that sort of
that title, I guess you could say. That's probably the most important title I have, because everybody else in my room is cool. The shamans are cool. I always tell them, I'm like, I might be older and first anointed, but you're cool.
Yeah, and the oracles and the
oracles. Oh, man.
Witches and warlocks. I don't know.
Warlock. I'm like, man, you guys are, whoa, I can't do any of that stuff. There's great people in the world. But yeah, so I found out through time, just dealing with, when I was 3 years old is when I first knew something was different with me. And I could see dead people and demons, and mostly dead people, which honestly is just, it doesn't really mean much. It does mean you're obviously spiritually aligned to see something that veil's not very thick for you, but it didn't mean a whole lot. But then I realized I'm not quite sure if people are familiar with the Gateway program that happened in the 70s and early 80s. I don't want to go deep into that, but you're welcome to research that. It was not just for gifted and accelerated students.
Yeah, like gifted and talented.
It was not. The people that actually got accepted into one part of it, where the other side was the facade. The other side of it, we were tested on. It might as well have been the Holocaust, how they tested on people. It was very traumatizing. And I had actually blocked a lot of that out. I was there from kindergarten until first grade, until my parents pulled me out. And then my last name was changed and some things happened to hide me, because not only am I a hybrid angel, I am anointed. They figured it out. Well, and they were looking for starseed. They really weren't even looking at the other stuff so much. They were looking to see if I had starseed DNA and who had starseed DNA. And if you don't know about starseeds, please know that the creator did not just create us. Our universe is massive, people. We are not the only people that have been created. And if you've seen the UFOs lately, which I saw my first one last night, Edina.
You saw your first UFO last night?
My first, we'll talk about that in a bit, because I was like, oh my, it's happening.
I'm timing, right? We're in this timing.
Right? I'm finally catching up to the whole world right now. But my life was tragic. Tragic from day out. My family, I don't want to go too far into that, but lots of betrayals, lots of jealousy, very much so neglect. And a lot of my group members have said this too. Don't you dare. Oh, that's not true. You're not special. You don't have those powers. But I can elevate rocks. No, if you can, don't tell anybody. Nobody wants to hear it. You're a freak, this type of stuff. Wow. And so what that does is it creates you to feel shamed. Now, how did I know I was anointed? I'll tell you how I knew. I just instinctually knew. I was not the kid you had to fight to go to bed, because I wanted to go to bed because Jesus was my best friend. I wanted to be in bed and talk to Jesus all night because I just loved him. And I kept saying to him, I remember from the earliest memories, I kept saying, Jesus, I know I'm special. I know I'm meant to be doing something to help people. I know I'm meant to be. Why do they keep telling me? Why am my family? Why is everybody neglecting me? They shove me down. And I just felt so terrible and conflicted. And so it wasn't until I was 21 when I actually got the first contact with Archangel Gabriel. They wait till you get through your teen years. They don't come after you until then, even though you're not quite an adult yet, but it's around 21. But I've had a child pass away. I've had my firstborn was born with heart disease. My brother was murdered. My father died of cancer at a young age. I've had cancer, and I've had so many illnesses. Chikungunya, you probably don't even know what that is. It's from a mosquito.
Gosh.
Things where I just should have died. I am the type, also, if you're a light worker, you'll know this, or anyone working in the divine. And also, this is how I figured out I was first anointed. First of all, I was told. Gabriel did let it I figured it though, because I know about the anointed, the 144,000 anointed I knew
Yeah.
about, and I knew about them. And I started looking back in my life and going, there were so many times where I should not have made it. I was the girl that wasn't scared to fly into Tunqua 1 hour from Afghanistan by myself or anywhere in the Middle East. I didn't even question it, Adina. I didn't even, everyone's, aren't you scared? And I'm like,
So you're
no.
taking all the risks and
Yeah,
just not
all my whole life it's been like, no, I'm not scared. Where did that come from? How did I know that? Nothing ever happened to me. The things that were supposed to happen never did. You know, what you would assume would happen. People almost seemed the opposite direction. They'd either be a little bit intimidated by me or they were ridiculously drawn into my aura. But I did get told eventually that yes, you are first anointed, but that was actually not that long ago to where they confirmed it. And that's because of my fallout with my marriage with my Pakistani husband and some of the violence that happened in that relationship, which was truly my last. Everybody comes here on a contract. I don't know
like
what you
your
believe,
trauma, tests of trauma.
it was the
Yeah.
test. Thank you. Yes, it was you guys, I'm going to say this to all your watchers. No one can deny that we're not down here, at least for trials and tribulations. Okay. I don't care if
Trials
you're
and tribulations.
famous,
Yeah.
not famous, poor, rich. We all go through it and we think, oh, if I could just get through that, I'll be great. And you get through it.
And then another wave
Here's
comes.
another one. Yeah, guys, just accept it. This is why you're here. It makes you amazing. It makes you powerful. Don't look ahead. Look behind at what you've already accomplished. I don't know who else is, and it's really weird because I've ran across a few people who I truly believe were anointed, but I do believe that if you really are anointed and you really are someone in that position, you had to work your butt off to get there. And I've been told many times I'm a warrior. I don't know how people believe in things, but in what I believe and what I've always seen is that we're not reincarnated. We just come down a bunch of times.
Like our past lives, our warrior
lives,
lives,
yeah,
or lives of
exactly.
this. Yeah.
Exactly. And that kind of makes sense if you think about it. That really does make sense. There's lots of stories, even within the three Canaans, which would actually support that. And so we come down just to finally to learn a lot of others, some specific lessons you have to learn to level up. And then there's some you can add personally. But also, I truly believe that at night, I think I've mentioned this online, you may have heard it, that your subconscious is always connected to the ether, which is both an A, which a lot of people call the area where you can astrally project. And
yeah,
so
we're getting like the akasha, like the energy around us, right? To get into that.
Yes. It's those mornings you wake up and you go, I had a dream last night about my grandmother and she told me so many amazing things. You know what? Grandma probably was there and it took place in the ether because you can reach the ether through your subconscious and it's so much easier for them to reach the ether because it's like a middle play box, like a playground for people to connect. And actually, once you become, if you are a divine person or you also get downloads. You get messages from your spirit team, your ancestors, from your archangels, from your angels, which honestly, people should interact a little bit more with their guardian angels. That's just my opinion. I mean, they're always with you.
Well, that's what they say. Like the veils are thinning right
They
now.
are. Have you noticed
a lot
that,
of people
Edina?
coming online with their gifts, or they're feeling more connected and able to communicate in that way with their divine.
Yeah, and angels just confirmed that for you.
Yeah.
They just came down and touched me and said, she just said the right thing. Yeah, the veil is very thin right now. And I think that's scaring people that honestly might be agnostic or atheist because they don't quite know what to do with these little gifts and little things that are starting to happen that they have. But definitely all of us like you and like that veil's very thin. We're starting to see almost like a rumbling effect even in our bodies. As I said, we're transcending and ascending, I guess you could say, into that fifth dimension. And like I said, I don't really like in my group to put a lot of religious labels on it because I feel like that scares people and that's not our job right now. Our job is to help people to raise that vibration, find that love and light and joy inside of them, and then take that and spread it amongst the rest of the people. And I think that's key. That's key. It's not really about what religion do you follow. I don't know if you saw when I did that I talked about doing that hypothesis experiment that I did.
No.
Okay, so I did a 500 near-death experience hypothesis because I'm nerdy as all get out. And I did it very simply, but please, if you do this, please do not go to near-deathexperience.com. Go to academic sites.
Accredited
psychology,
ones, right?
Yeah,
because there's consistency across all the near-death
please go to actual
Yeah.
JSTOR if you have access or somewhere, academic journals, but also don't necessarily look at their results, just take the story and read. I read 500 of them, and then I did some percentage rates. Okay, what did people really see? What did they see? Where were we at? I'm going to tell you right now, 98.7% saw Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm still Muslim, but I was like, where the heck is Muhammad? But then again, I reminded myself, okay, they didn't see Moses. They didn't see Noah. They didn't see anybody.
Yeah.
So I did have that moment of maybe he's doing something else. I don't know what's going on.
And Jesus
so
is known as for being like the love,
yes,
the Christ, the love
the Christ
consciousness, you know?
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the embodiment of mercy, right? So
Yeah,
even if it's obviously Islamic people and Jewish people do not believe he's the son of God, but if you're a
Right.
Muslim, you better love Jesus Christ. I think both religions, but Muslims really do put Jesus Christ at a very high revered, I would say right behind Muhammad, sitting right there. Not necessarily even behind, just different roles. And so Jesus was the one everybody saw, and I just love Jesus. I'm gonna tell you, I've had some experience myself with Jesus. I knew we were close because I do know who I am on the opposite side, which came along much later. Really funny who I am on the opposite side, really. Really it is, though. And this movement, I try so hard not to put, like I said, religion on it, but you can't ignore everything in the Canaans. You can't. Some of this stuff is very spot on. Out of the three major Canaans, I love the Quran. I feel like the Quran really does kind of, and I also love Buddhism and paganism, but those are not religions. Those are ways of life. And we have this very misconstrued because paganism is not like just for, oh, it's witches. God intended witches. If we didn't have white witches, people would have died in considerably faster back in the days because God gave us the bounty of the earth with so many holistic medicines. And these witches, however you want to bring, when you see witch in your head, you think broomstick, evil, whatever. No, there's a lot of really good people out there that do, I guess you could say, white witchcraft, if you'd like, that truly were given that gift, I do believe, by the Creator to help us understand.
Yeah, it's like the feminine energies or
Absolutely.
the feminine awakening is bringing up a lot of our intuitive abilities, which is what's connecting us to God. And it's women or females have a divine nature to them where we're able to connect to that energy, or that used to be the cause of us being called witches. And so
slow down.
Living that and healing through those wounds, being labeled as witches or divine feminine that are using herbs and then being called from the devil. So it's definitely the time where we're just reassessing all that and moving and I even think, like you said, no more labels, no more, like, you don't want to have these.
Yes. Oh, you got a heavy confirmation on that one, boy. They all came in just now. Like I said, yes. Tell her. I do have a connection to angels, so I can feel them immediately when then somebody I'm talking to says something very spot on, or if I say something spot on. And so that was a very poignant. What they're saying is, you just said something so important. The labels need to go.
The labels need to go. Yeah.
The labels need to go, because we're all technically, at the end of the day, no one's more important. I know people have said to me before, but you're anointed. Okay, it's like when you have I have 6 children.
Yeah, amazing, by the way. And you look so young, which is another thing I was going to mention, because
that's the angel perk.
You little angel dust you sprinkle every morning.
Little angel dust. I don't know how that works, but I do have 6 children. I'll be 50 years old this year.
Amazing.
But the way I like to describe this with the Creator, when people say this, oh, you're anointed, you must be so important. And it's actually more like this. I have 6 children. I love them all the same. I would do anything for them. They are my life, my light, my love. But I don't necessarily always like what they do, or what some of them do a little bit. I might like them a little differently. But I will tell you, to get into an anointed position with the Creator, you would have had to have done 2 major things. And I try to tell everybody this because a lot of people want to live to that. And I said, once I realized this is what they told me why I got the first position. I have went through tragic, horrifying, ridiculous lives. And I was born into a light walker line who was also angel hybrid. So my job, though, is a light walker. And that's a very tragic line. There's many generational curses, guys. And everyone's part of a generation, okay? You're part of it goes way back. And right now would be the time too, by the way, if you're alive and you probably are the generational curse, because I don't believe we're going to be doing a lot of this.
Generational curse breakers. All
the generational curse breakers, wake up, because this is what I'm going to tell you. Yeah. In my line, there was just a lot of people that when they went through this hard stuff. So please, this is a very intelligent. You have to hear this one. If you go through a lot of really tragic, hard things in life, the key is to not turn against the Creator or the universe, because all of those things are lessons. And a very good example of that I think a lot of people, I think you'll appreciate this too, Edina, is what happened in Gaza. I think a lot of people really saw it's giving me chills right now, and I have to be careful because I'll cry, because it makes me so softened to this. And in fact, I'm so proud of my fellow Muslim brothers and sisters. You witnessed so many people holding their babies or their children, and wrath the angels are all over me, with a cloth around them, kissing their faces. And what they did is what astounded the world. They thanked Allah. They're all over me. Thank you.
Yeah, not turning, like you said, because people are always asking, oh, there's God is real, why does all these horrific things happen? Babies dying.
Right.
So what do we say to that?
Yes.
And then how do we prevent it from us becoming colder and colder and our hearts becoming shrinker and
Yes.
shrinkier, right?
Yes. Or angrier and angrier.
Angry,
And feeling like life isn't fair. Guess what, guys?
yeah,
It's not fair. And
right.
also many
And
things
we
that
had to
happen.
see it firsthand with the degree
We
of
got to see it,
unfairness
and I
in
know
your
that
face. Yeah.
you probably heard this as well. This was the biggest conversion to Islam ever in history.
Yeah, it's
After
a
that,
massive wave, right?
yeah,
Where
because people were seeing people thanking God for taking their whole family and everything they owned. That is how you become the first anointed. You can't go through life thinking that, God's doing this to you to punish you. And I'm not saying God doesn't have wrath, because God does.
yeah,
If you read all three major canons, you can probably see it. But that's after you've done something horrendous or heinous. You've done something. There's consequences for everything in the world. Even if you go to the scientific world, equal and opposite reactions, right? So you do something,
yeah,
there's going to be a reaction. So I truly believe that's the first one. You cannot turn against God. You absolutely cannot. And then the second one is, you must remain still full of unconditional love. So you cannot harden that heart. When I'm not talking now about hardening it against God, do not harden it against humanity. And so a lot of people will take out their pain, their anger, their hurt. They'll bleed all over people that didn't actually cause it, because they did hurt people, and you can't do that. And I'm not saying that I've never hidden behind my trauma a little reprieve, trying to figure out, I don't want to deal with this today. That's very normal, that's very natural, that's very human. But you can't stay in there, because what will happen is you will create a habit, and you will stay hidden behind your trauma, and then that will become your identity, and you won't know how to get out. Now the good thing about that is we have shadow walkers, and shadow walkers do a different job than I do, and they work exclusively with helping people to manage their trauma and manage walking with their shadow side, because we all have a shadow side. We all have it, right? I'm sure you've seen that through your work, that
or
when
just,
I say,
doing the shadow work, and it's part of each one of our
yes,
healing journeys. And
yes,
yeah, so that's amazing. And the work that you do with people who are following you and listening to your lives every day almost. So, where's a good place? I know we were talking about the Misfits Go Wild community. Where do you want people who might be listening and who resonate with all of this to follow you and find you? Because I know you got a couple of social media sites as well.
I do.
Yeah.
So if you are not just a person seeking this type of stuff, but maybe you just have lots of abilities, you're not quite sure who you are and what you're doing, and people say you're weird, you don't know what you are, please come too as well, because we help you with that as well. There's lots of help there. Okay, just come check us out.
Yeah,
But
all
on
the
TikTok,
box thinkers.
yeah, on TikTok it's the Misfits Go Wild, and I also have a lot of people copying me. Please do not look at any of the other. It's literally just the Misfits Go Wild on TikTok.
There's a lot of duplicates.
And then I do have a backup called the Misfits Backup, because we know how that works. Okay, it's called the Misfits Backup account on TikTok. I also have YouTube, which is just called Misfits Go, just the part's not on it. I am creating a website right now, just because there's some branding and some things that are going on. I'm not in this to make money. That's not I don't even ask for gifts on TikTok. I'm like, nah, I'm a messenger. I'm here to work for God. I'm not here for any other reason. But I definitely, and we are growing a group. There's a lot of stuff coming up, guys, and we don't have time in this podcast to necessarily discuss those things right now. I know Edina's probably going to address those as they come closer.
Yeah, and we'll post it under the show. So I'm so excited for anyone who can find you and join the community.
Yes, please come find us. We have a fantastic group.
And that's how it all starts. And I know we mentioned like looking into the Dolores Cannon books and people who are awakening, and so it's pretty much digesting content 24/7, like on TikTok, like myself. All right. Sounds good, Lisa. It was great having you. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom you want to leave with our audience before we wrap up?
First of all, thank you for being a sister in this and spreading the word and the awareness. But I think that's the key. And honestly, guys, don't be afraid out there. You can love a whole lot more than you think. There's a lot. And also, there's a lot of good people out there more than you think. So let's all embrace that and try to. We can change the world. We can change it. It's time. It's time. We're waking up. It's time. So
elevate the consciousness collective, and we're in that. So I love it so much, Lisa. Thank you so much for being here. I hope to talk to you soon. We had so many more topics we could have talked about. I know we could forever. There's a lot going on. I hope to have you back in the future. Okay.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.